start the recording session. There we go. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. If you are not speaking, and you will have the opportunity to speak during the Q&A section, for now, please keep your microphone and your video closed. I want to thank our speakers for today, Jean-Pierre Labrie, Managing Partner at TT Gulf, who will be speaking about the Emirates market, and Melody Nadeau from the Cove Center for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship, who will be speaking about the Canada market. The reason we are organizing this webinar, to give you a bit of background, is that Pôle Mer Méditerranée and Optitec have a very strong expertise in the autonomous systems, both in maritime systems, but also with Optitec and Safe Cluster, aerial and land autonomous systems as well. And we are organizing this year a number of activities related to autonomous systems, and this is the first of them. We will have another webinar on different markets as well, including India, Israel, South Africa, and Singapore. And we will be organizing some activities during the Euro Maritime event in Marseille in June and Euronaval in October in Paris. So after this webinar, you will have access to a study that we have produced on the markets that will give you more insight on the various aspects of the sectors in each of these countries. And we will, of course, let you know, if you're interested, the future opportunities that you will have to further your knowledge of these markets with the help of a consultant. For now, I will remind you of today's agenda. We will have 20 minutes of presentation from each of the speakers, so 20 minutes from Jean-Pierre Labrie of TT Gulf and 20 minutes from Melanie Nadeau of Cove. And after that, if you have any questions, we will have some time left over for you to discuss further with our speakers your interest for the markets. So without further ado, Jean-Pierre Labrie, if you could start presenting, I will make sure that you're presenter. And you will be able to share your screen and begin.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Fanny. So I'm able to share, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So I'm really sorry, but I don't know how to share.
On the bottom of your screen, just like earlier, you have screen sharing, partager l'écran.
No, it's okay. Perfect. Okay, so now you've got it, yeah? It's okay?
Yes. Well,
okay, so
put it in full screen for us.
Yeah, I'll put you on full screen now.
There we are.
Okay, so thank you very much. My name is Jean-Pierre Labrie. As Fanny told you, I had the privilege to have these sessions. Thanks also to Ziga from Optitec who has given me the chance to speak. Just for your info, just to give you a background from my side, I came to Dubai in 1996, means 26 years ago, and I've been there for all these years with two offices, consulting offices, TT Gulf and Export Pôles in France. Let me give you a brief overview of the Middle East region, first of all. Middle East is it's really a region which is in between Europe, Africa, and Asia. So you have got a lot of, I would say, dynamism, commercial activities which are there, and many international companies have decided to put their regional office in Dubai. So you have a lot of companies that have been established in the free zones, a lot of communities have come. And if you compare when I came in 1996, which was a country with 2.5 million people, the population has increased by 4. So today we are around 10 million people. So it's quite dynamic. And within Dubai, when the companies are there, they are able to go to a much larger market, including, of course, the GCC countries, but also North Africa, part of Africa, and part of Asia also. When you discuss with some companies located in Dubai, they tell you, we take care of the Turkish market, we take care of the Indian market, we take care of the Egyptian market, they take care of these markets from Dubai. So you have a lot of people there, and you have a good community. Now, if you looked the surrounded regions, of course, UAE is today a country which is having a war with Yemen, okay? So south of Saudi Arabia. It has border with Saudi Arabia. It has border with Qatar. It has a border with, in a way, with Iran, which is also very sensitive. In this region, you've got Syria, you've got Iraq. So when you look at the region by itself, it's quite, I would say, a challenging region. But during these years, where you have a lot of crises, where you have also, for example, the Arab Spring, okay, with the Arab, in a way, revolutions, you have seen that Dubai has always benefit from the primes that are surrounded in the regions. You have prime in Iran, many Iranian peoples come to Dubai. You have prime in Yemen, some people come to Dubai. You have prime in Egypt, some people come in Dubai. You have prime in Syria, people come to Dubai and UAE, I would say, in general. So it's quite, I would say, in a way, quite a peaceful country. When you come to Dubai, you have, I would say, I'm sorry, but a wrong image of what you can see in the Gulf countries if you go to other countries. And in a way, UAE is a very safe market, okay? And of course, if you looked at the defense and if you look at the security, the countries wants to make sure that it will be a safe country, okay? Nobody wants to have a terrorist attack, nobody wants to have a bomb, nobody wants to have any problems in this country. So we need to assure a certain stability. If you look at the GCC countries, so 6 Gulf countries, Qatar, Saudi, Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait, and of course UAE, you can see that you have approximately 58 million people, out of which 35 million, 36 million are in Saudi Arabia, 10 million are in UAE. All the others are very small countries. And then if you go a little bit around Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, you reach a market of 218 million people, with approximately 50% of the population being foreigners. So when you look at 10 million people, you have a lot of these peoples that are foreigners. And if you go country by country, you will see that you have a lot of people in UAE, 88% of the people are foreigners. If you go to Saudi Arabia, it's only 32%, okay? So you have big diversity, and you have, of course, a lot of Indian, Pakistanis, Bangladesh are the main, I would say, the main nationalities. So if you looked in Middle East on the country, pros and cons, okay, if you looked, it's, as I told you, an economy which is very diversified. It's a trade hub for the regions. It's a large financial reserves, and politically, it's very stable. If you looked at the same time, you have a lot of challenge around the country. You have a dependence, of course, on hydrocarbon, so it's very important to look at diversifications. And of course, you have a dependence also on the foreign labor. If you look at the defense, for example, in UAE, in 2021, UAE, which is a country, as I told you, with 10 million people, they spend almost 6% of their GDP in defense. So it's almost $23 billion on the defense, right? Which is more than, for example, what you can have in Canada. And of course, it's close to half of what you can see in France. And if you look, of course, at all the spending which is done, you can see that most of the product, most of the services are coming from the foreign international companies. Yeah, there's not much which comes locally. So of course they spend a lot. If you go to defense and security, and of course the subject is also to discuss about autonomous sector. If you go in the shipping, for example, industry, they have organized some, you know, they really look at the future, and they look at the possibilities, okay, to see innovations. And it doesn't really matter if the innovation is very new and not tested. They really don't care too much. They are ready even to test and to have some pilot project. So I would like to say to the companies that have innovative product, this market is definitely a market for you. Okay, and of course they look at vessels in the maritime shippings. They plan to, of course, to couple it with artificial intelligence and new technology. At the same time, if you go to anti-submarine systems, for example, they plan to have cooperations with international countries. And I don't know if you're aware, but recently, a little bit more than a year ago, UAE has opened relations with Israel. And as you know, Israel is having, of course, good technology within the systems, and there is also mutual collaboration, which has started also, you see, so we speak about just 1 year, and they already start discussing about new collaborations between the two countries. We could see, for example, during the last Dubai Air Show 2021, that the Emirati defense conglomerate, which is called EDGE, with Israel Aerospace Industry, have announced a new partnership, okay, to produce some advanced modular unnamed surface vessels for both military and commercial use as well. And when we discuss about UAE, we discuss, of course, about Dubai, but we discuss also about Abu Dhabi. It's the full country. So the objective here is to secure here, I would say, the water, okay, the sea, and to secure with such a device to secure the country. It's exactly the same with DP World, which is the really very large organizations that take care of all the maritime and the sea stuff here for the country. It's to upgrade also security and surveillance, okay, at all the ports that the UAE can have, of course, Jebel Ali, but also Mina Rashid, Al Amriya on the north, for example, are also projects which are having autonomous security surveillance. Right? So the idea is really to have the latest technology available, okay, for the country security. When it comes to autonomous air systems in the UAE, of course, we speak a lot about drones, okay, definitely, but the idea also here is to protect also the country from drones, and to see also if there are possibilities to have, I would say, a system that can detect, identify, classify, intercept also the threat that we could have with such device. And there also there are some memorandum of understandings which are done between different countries. Each time the technology is coming from abroad, okay, presented in the markets, and then the countries are able to say, yeah, this could be nice for us. Let's discuss about that. Okay, so that's about the air systems. On the land side, okay, I give you, for example, an example of what has been done for the containers. Okay, with the terminals, they have implemented the first of its kind in the Middle East. It's also completely autonomous port truck systems, which has been done in the Abu Dhabi. Okay, for this example. At the same time, you have also some other automated and robotic systems which are done, for example, here on the supply chains sectors and the logistics sectors, and you've got different type of product, also robotics, which are proposed here locally in the countries. At the same time, you've got also exactly the same type of examples on autonomous vehicles, which are tested in the UAE. And it reminds me some car manufacturers, you know, that's a lot of car manufacturers have kind of autonomous way of driving for their cars. They need to try, they need to test. And Dubai has been quite a few years ago able to provide facilities for this car manufacturer to test their vehicles. But we've got also, as you can see here, we've got also a few other initiatives which are done on some first 5G autonomous vehicles shuttle bus, for example, here, which is tested directly on the public roads of Ajman. Ajman is one of the 7 Emirates that you are having in the UAE. In the presentations that I'm going to share with Pôle Mer and Optitec, you will be able to see some of articles which are done on what we could call smart transportations, or what we could also maybe sometimes discuss about regulations also, which have to do with this use of new technologies, and you will be able to see for example, we have discussed a lot about aerial taxis, but it was also the same for the police. Maybe you have seen already this on the news. What's interesting here to see is that we have a lot of events and exhibitions which are linked to aerospace, aviations, which are linked to cyber securities, which are linked to IT, telecommunications, which are linked to water as well. And here I wanted to give you a few potential dates which are there. And what is quite interesting is that I've got a lot of clients that sometimes say, maybe I'm not going to exhibit to this fair. I will not take a stance, but maybe I will come as a visitor, and then it's a good way to see the market, to have an idea of what's done there locally, and sometimes to organize also B2B meetings. So here you've got the Global Aerospace Summit, Info Security Middle East, GITEX, which is very famous in October, WETEX also, which is there. You've got as well Intersec. Intersec was just happening last January, so next ones will be next year's. NAVDEX, it's also quite interesting one, leading naval defense and maritime security events, which is purely dedicated to sea. IDEX is extremely famous when it comes to defense, and this is in Abu Dhabi as well. And you've got also UMEX, which is there, which will be only in 2024, which is also located in Abu Dhabi. You have to see also, maybe it's not always clear, but in the defense sectors, and especially in this type of sectors where it has to do with federal aspect, many things happens in Abu Dhabi, because this is where you've got the capitals, you have the governments, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of commercial activities, with more when it is coming to civil, will be in Dubai. So depending where you are, Dubai may be more attractive than Abu Dhabi when it comes to business. Here I've given you slides on the UMEX also, which is theirs, which is definitely done dedicated to drones, robotics, and name systems as well. Now let me tell you how to make business here in the UAE. I think first of all, you need to understand exactly what strategy do you want to put in place. Is it the first time that you export? Do you have a clear knowledge on the markets, depending on the product or services that you provide? Do you have enough time and resources? Do you have differentiation factor? And do you have local requirements as well? That could be important for you to check. And then, of course, you need to discuss with these COVID times how to continue doing business remotely. What options can you have to continue to grow? And is there any way that you could remotely make some business? I think for me, I see 3 different steps that you may have. One is that you are in a discovery or prospecting phase. The other one is that you already have a business, but you want to ensure sustainability on your activities, or you already have a business and maybe you have a problems because during COVID, a lot of companies have been challenged and a lot of companies have been forced to sometimes to stop. And as you know, for me, I'm French. In France, we had a lot of supports, but if you go to UAE, if you were not able to make business, then you had to stop or to terminate people and to downsize the company, and sometimes even to close. So what you have known 2 years ago may not be true today. But what is really important is, first of all, to analyze your market entry strategy. And maybe just when you analyze your market entry strategy, you may see that you could respond to local or regional call for tenders, even remotely, You could prepare and to participate in a collective missions like what Pôle Mer or Optitec are used to do, where you really go on the sectors and you are part of a collective missions. That could be also a possibilities for you to discover a country. You could have remote prospecting, and I have seen during COVID a lot of companies who are not able to fly and who said no, but I still need to continue and diversify, and going internationally to other markets is important for me. So we could find some partner for them and at least start the search by Visio. And what you can do also sometimes is to act as a subcontractor to a major player. It means that you don't have the full solutions, but your product is part of the solutions, and you take advantage of these solutions, which is sold by a major player to act as a subcontractor. And sometimes you have a lot of companies that indirectly make some international export. Of course, the other thing also which is possible is when you reach a certain level is to have somebody locally. We do, for example, for us, a lot of payrolls. It means that we have employees of companies in our office, and we provide them with visa so that they can work locally. But you could also create your own local structure because sometimes when you go into, especially into federals, if you want to make business in the mainland, which means that with the public authorities, you need to register your company locally, or you completely outsource your exports, and you find, I would say, and this is what I have mentioned also sometimes here, because sometimes you may have some problems, but you find the right distributor or supplier. What is important is that each time you find a distributor, this distributor needs to be well connected, needs to have the full registrations to operate, a good after-sales service. You need to make sure that you can train also these distributors, and most of the times these distributors or suppliers that you may, but usually it's distributors that you may find, they have the right connections with the federal governments so that they can really address the tender. Okay. I think it's important to think about exports, especially we are doing it here for the French market as well. You have what we call chèque relance exports, which are there, but you have also sometimes some proposals which are done by the regional supports, okay, and of course BPI is there, and BPI is having different type of supports as well, which is assurance prospection accompagnement for companies that are a little bit smaller, and they have also what we call service export externalisé, which means that you externalize your exports to consulting companies, so that you could have a local ground also. So to summarize for me, I think what's important to see is that it's a very attractive market. They are really open to innovations. They have a lot of money to spend. They are really interested by that. Okay, it's very strategic for the countries, but not only for UAE. And if you plan to settle in UAE, okay, look also from a regional perspective, because you could have Saudi, you could have Qatar, you could have India, you could have Turkey, you could have Egypt also from that side. So that's the presentation from my side.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. That was a great overview of the market and really the different ways to approach it. I'm now going to give the floor to Melanie, CEO of Cove. And Melanie, of course, given the nature of Cove, has a much stronger specialty in marine systems, which I think will interest most people who are here in the webinar. Melanie, I've made you presenter. You should be able to share your screen again. And your microphone currently is off. Can you hear me, Melanie?
Okay. Do one thing at a time?
Yeah. We can hear you now.
Okay, great.
And your screen is shared.
Excellent. Can you see that?
Yeah, perfect. It's in full screen.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation to present at this webinar. My name is Melanie Nadeau, and I'm the CEO of COVE, which is the Center for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship. My background has been largely in different tech, clean tech, from any types of activities like equity investments, technology evaluations, and I worked for a good amount of time in the energy business, also involved in multiple ventures in the offshore space. And I came to COVE just under 2 years ago. And a little bit different slant on the presentation today that I want to share or give you a perspective of the activity that's happening in Canada in this space. And yes, I'll definitely focus on marine, but there are multiple applications for different autonomy in different parts of the sector. My focus today is primarily around the marine space. I also want to say I won't really touch on the ways in which you can drive export or not. There are different organizations from the federal government, like Invest in Canada, and different groups like Nova Scotia Business Inc. and so on, and immigration support. So if you are looking for that type of information, I can definitely send you more info to some of the folks that we know across Canada that can help you if you're looking to do business in Canada. So with that being said, just to give you a sense of what COVE is, we are an innovation hub led by industry, and we have facilities and so on, and our main mandate is to look at high-tech innovation in the ocean for its sustainable use. And our goals are really around commercialization. So how do we commercialize technology in our markets to accelerate in being competitive both in Canada and to other markets outside of Canada? We look at 5 different sectors within the ocean space. So these different users, so our partners and clients include those from marine defense and security, offshore energy, marine transportation, fisheries and aquaculture, and marine tourism. So as you know, the ocean sector is quite vast, but what we see across each of these end users is there are multiple applications for robotics, for autonomy, digital observations, and so on. So there is quite a crossover between these sectors and different applications of technology. These are our facilities itself. So we've got facility here located in the harbor of Halifax, which is located on the eastern shores of Nova Scotia. We have a co-working space, which are the buildings that you see here. We have workshop space, which includes everything from a machine shop that does customized equipment and fabrication. We've also got the marginal wharfs and the piers. So we get different types of vessels from all over the world that do come here. Mainly our focus on the vessels is those that are working in the ocean tech space, those that are doing research around the world, and they all are looking for different applications of autonomy. And then we have a 12-acre water lot, which I'll touch on a little bit later, but the importance of the water lot is a lot around testing for different types of technologies. What's interesting about where we are from a locational perspective is that, one, we're right along the waterfront in a very protected harbor. And we also have a strong, dense cluster of activity that surrounds us. Not to say that there's not more clusters in Canada, but this is probably one of the densest clusters. We have the Halifax shipyard, which is right across the way, and they're building the new defense vessels. So we're highly centered around the supply chain for those vessels. We've got the Navy that's right across from us. We've got a community college that have over 8 programs related to the oceans. We also have the University of Dalhousie and other universities, but Dalhousie has the highest concentration of PhDs in Canada in the ocean sector. We've got other activity that is just down the way from us, which includes the Defense Research Center for the federal government. And we also have the Bedford Institute of Oceanography, which is part of Department of Fisheries and Oceans. And so they're all real users of robotics, of autonomy, and are definitely, whether it's from a talent point of view or from a user perspective, client perspective, are looking at this space quite closely. And perhaps what I will say too is from a regional point of view, we tend to do a lot of business along the Atlantic seaboard and then across the Atlantic over into the European markets. Not to say that there's not more work that happens in the States around North America or in other parts of the world. Just to give you a flavor of ourselves, Cove, we have about 60 resident companies, so companies that are physically located with us, whether they have their full offices with us or it's a landing space for companies that are looking to do looking for opportunities in the North American market. And we have everything from startups. We've got an incubator space that houses some of startups. And then we have small and medium-sized enterprises, which in Canada is about 500 people or less in a business. And then we have multinationals that are also resident at Cove. And then more broadly than that, we've got several different partnerships, not only in Canada, but around the world. And we have a pretty broad network. Needless to say, if you look at the right of this slide, there's a lot of resources in Canada for ocean innovation. And one primarily big resource is the National Shipbuilding Strategy. So this is a multiple billion-dollar, several billions of dollars strategy that's looking at building new ships for the Canadian Navy, as well as other ships, leading-edge ships for the Canadian Coast Guard and other federal government programs. There's the Ocean Tracking Network, which is a data collection, not just throughout Canada, but throughout the world, but it is housed here. There's Canada's Ocean Supercluster, which is a large funding body of the federal government that's been established to help support industrial development, technology, innovation in Canada. And it would support anything from autonomy, different robotics. They have several different projects to looking at starting more startups in the ecosystem. We also have a big fisheries presence in not just in Atlantic Canada, but in Canada, of course. And so there's a fund set up to help support new innovations in that space. Much of the new innovations that I am seeing are around the use of technology, data, information, and software. We also in Canada have something called the National Ideas Challenge, which is quite interesting. It's a challenge that gets launched at multiple times throughout the years to address different issues that the defense sector faces. And so it's a very well-planned type challenge where you get to bid in, and then it just goes. If you're more successful, you can continue throughout the challenge. And it ranges from, again, robotics, sensor data, to right now at Cove, we're hosting an ideas challenge for D&D around corrosion, the detection of corrosion. And in fact, one of the businesses that is part of this challenge is using drones to help detect corrosion aboard vessels. And lastly, just to mention the Ocean Frontier Institute, which is a large body of grouping of different universities that are focused on ocean research. And that again covers quite a broad spectrum of different research activities. within this space. Very quickly, our programs, we've got, along with our facilities and what we do on site in our working waterfront, we've got various programs. So our programs are really, again, focused on accelerating commercialization. So one around workforce and developing the right talent, putting the right talent in place. And we have different initiatives under that program, everywhere from targeting youth that will eventually go into the sector to mid-career professionals who are looking at transitioning into the sector. Our technical program looks at offshore, primarily offshore, but onshore as well, shared infrastructure to accelerate commercialization. Our market readiness is focused on building companies, successful companies. So we've got our Cove Startup Yard, which is our incubator on site, which is highly focused on startups. But we're also doing work with companies that are scaling. On the commercialization of applied research, we work with different institutes when they're conducting research, and then there's an opportunity on a certain project to commercialize. So in certain cases, we'll be the partner in that. And then lastly, hub and spoke, we look for similar like-minded organizations to us that we can partner. So we look for export opportunities for different businesses, different technology, also shared infrastructure, and cross-activity through talent, through people. Broad spectrum of this is just a really brief snapshot of some of the organizations that not only are resident here, but that are part of our day-to-day partnerships and so on. So it's just a window into that. And these are some of the technology advances that you would see if you were at Cove. And some that would interest you. For example, we've got a company called GIT, Graphite Innovation Technologies. So they have developed a graphene coating that not only reduces noise for vessels or different applications, subsea, but also has the ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for vessels. And the spectrum of technologies is quite vast, but as you can see here, we have everything from different types of high velocity vessels that are doing hydrographic research to launch and recovery system that's being developed by a company called Kraken for towed underwater vehicles. And this is, you know, if you look at our website, this is a study that we did, a benchmarking study in Canada that we recently published earlier this year. And it looked at what we call the new blue economy. And it's a term that's been adopted in the US and in the UK. And it's around technology or businesses that are developing, whether it be robotics, information systems, measurements, sensors, etc., within the ocean economy. And again, that would touch on many verticals of the ocean sector. And so we've had quite a surge of companies in Canada that have come into existence, but that have also grown in the last couple of years. And in fact, in Atlantic Canada, where Cove is situated on the east coast of Canada, there's quite a high density of these type of companies. And it's interesting because the level of density creates opportunity, but it also is starting to look at high densities like you would normally see in Massachusetts, for example, where you have a high surge of tech companies. Same with Southern California. So there's quite a growth in this area. And again, this report is available on our website. I do want to touch on a little bit more on some of the offshore platforms under a technical program that we've developed, because this really offers an opportunity for fast testing, verification, demonstration, and product development of different technologies, primarily within the new blue economy space. Our most recent platform has been a subsea sensor platform, which is the first east of Canada that's used for commercialization purposes. And it's a cabled sensor platform that's about 100 meters from our wharf. It's optically connected and power connected. And it's got different instruments that are on there, everything from video camera imagery to acoustic and hydrophones to conductivity, temperature, depth sensors. And we have I can move to the next slide here. We have data that we collect through the cloud under a platform called Grafana, and that's available to registered users. So users would get real-time data based on their sensors that they have on the platform. Currently, we have approximately about 16, 17 different sensors on there, different companies that are involved. And you would get this type of data in real time. What's interesting about it is that we also have reference data that we collect. And so there's opportunities for not only for developing specific or demonstrating specific sensors, but also an opportunity to cross-reference with different data that you would find subsea. Our next foray is really looking at fully interconnecting the whole harbor. So this platform is located quite, you see Dartmouth on this map here, but right here, that's where we're located. But and that's where the Stella Maris is. But we're looking at doing some subsea connected nodes that would be throughout the whole harbor. And the rationale being that we would be able to collect different subsea data. We also are looking at surface data and then air data to have a fully functional data ecosystem that could also be used to relay or develop subsea communications with different vehicles, as well as build a contained test platform for autonomy in different vessels. And so that's just in the early days of thinking, but that's really what our larger project would be a fully interconnected harbor. And that's just a little bit more information about that. The other project that connects to as well is we manage offshore buoys. These are smart buoys that are located at the mouths of harbors in Nova Scotia and in New Brunswick. And they collect real-time data like temperature, wave height, currents. And this data is being used by different users of the harbor. So for example, the Port Authority, the Pilotage Authority, and they've now started to rely on real-time data to manage their operations, which has improved efficiencies, also reduced safety of sending out vessels when the incoming weather may be bad into the harbor. And so we're also looking at the data coming from these buoys to be able to do predictive analysis through an organization that we're partnered with called DeepSense that focuses on artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so we're doing some predictive modeling around that data should, for example, there'd be gaps in the sensors, or there'd be issues with the sensors that are collecting data, and we'd be able to properly predict what type of weather conditions would be in the area. So lastly, this is my last slide. I just also want to maybe share with you and welcome you to a conference that's happening in Halifax. It's coming very shortly. It's in June. And it's one of the largest conferences in Canada that's focused simply on ocean tech. So it will have individuals from multiple different sectors that will attend. And we also host, as part of this conference, a demo day, which is about featuring a lot of technologies that we interact with on a regular basis. And so I'll just give you a glimpse of what that demo day will look like, just to hopefully heighten your awareness and welcome you to this conference. And there are other conferences as well, like DevSec and CanSec, which are defense conferences, and The Economist is doing a conference on ocean economy in the fall. So there are many other conferences. Again, if you looked at our website, you'd be able to see if you're interested. So let me play this for you. Oops. that just gives you a bit of the flavor of some of the activity that you see here on the East Coast. And needless to say, on both coasts and across Canada, there's a lot of activity around autonomy, robotics within the various sectors that we have here. And with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing and then we'll entertain any questions.
Great. Thank you, Melanie, for the insight into the ongoing projects at Cove. I think it's very interesting to see that how much this cluster is doing right now. And of course, H2O, we've promoted to our members, and we're actually attending as part of the Space to Waves program with a few members in June. If anybody has any questions, please either turn on your microphone and ask them, or you can also write them in the chat if you'd like. Right now, maybe I'll start by asking Jean-Pierre if you have any knowledge of French companies in the sector that have been able to reach the Emirates market.
Yeah, I mean, you've got of course companies which are quite I would say large ones. Okay. International companies. I mean, I could take the example of Thales, for example, who is doing wonderful in the Middle East regions, but not only in the UAE. It's also in Saudi, it's also in Egypt, it's in different countries. And then you've got different players. I think, for example, about a transport company like Easy Miles, which has tested also some autonomous cars also in the UAE. So you've got different players. I was also about to ask one person to come and discuss also on the project that he's currently having, but unfortunately he told me this is difficult to speak on defense project today. I mean, it's always a little bit critical, but yes, there are quite a good number of players. And I would say that if we look at the French companies, we have good image. It's a really good image.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
For drones, for example, in the events, there was a company. It's called Dronizos. They are specialized into drones and but mainly for events, and they were also the one to be on the show for the Expo 2020. So that's to give you examples of what's going on today in the market. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think what's important, I would say, it's really to be on the long run. You know, not just come and make just one shot. I mean, you need to give confidence to the player, to the local player, that it will not just be just a spot, you know. But that you will really be there for the after sales, that you will be there also for trainings, that you will be there for anything that could happen. So you need to come with this local exposure.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for the tip, and it's great to hear that French companies are doing well even outside of defense in the Emirates. And Melanie, regarding Cove, right now, if some of our members who are French and who may or may not have a presence in Canada, what activities could they participate in Cove right now?
Well, they could come and locate in Canada, and I think there's a lot of services to help companies to locate some of their people here. There's obviously the activity within conferences, and again, I'd suggest going to our website because we do list all the conferences that are relevant, at least for the naval marine space. And very similarly, I think it's about also conducting missions to understand what are the needs of the market and who are the potential customers in the market. And I listed quite a few that are, maybe more focused on marine, but it's much broader than that. Even when you think about the research community as a client, when you look at federal government, different governments, or those that are involved in major supply chains, such as we also have the Thales group here, and in fact I'm meeting with them tomorrow morning. So they're quite active in Canada too. There's a naval group as well that's from France that's very active in Canada, that are involved in in air, land, and marine. So I think, you know, as a first steps, it's trying to understand what's happening in the market and then seeing how your business fits within it. And then there are programs and organizations like ourselves, depending on what you're looking for, that can also help.
Right. Just one thing, Fanny, to discuss about Thales. So we are conducting from our side. We are really preparing the expats to come in the Middle East region, Thales, for example. So it's a client for us. But just to give you an idea, for example, they had an issue in the UAE, and especially in Dubai. They were thinking about how to interconnect the CCTV cameras with the other, you know, in between different departments. And Thales was the one to have a kind of unique control rooms where they can integrate airports with metro, subways, with taxis, with hotels, and with the police, and today you've got something which is completely integrated, and this has been done by Thales. So that's to see how the French image is there, and within our different sectors, like what Melanie was telling, it's not just about sea, it's land, it's air, it's a multitude of sectors which are there, and it's, of course, we speak about defense, but it's not only defense. They are really great opportunities, really great opportunities.
Right, and just to remind the participants of the webinar, the Pôle Mer and Pôle Optitec will send you a study that we've made on both the Canada and the Emirates market, where you will be able to find out a bit more in detail about the various different sectors, the different opportunities, regulation, policy, key players as well. It will be short fiche that you will be able to consult, and that will come as a complement to the presentations that we've had today. Again, if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to speak up. I believe, Melanie, you may have to leave us soon, if I'm not mistaken. If there are no questions, so I will be uploading this webinar on our YouTube channel, and it will be available for everybody to consult once again if you haven't been able to take notes. And I will be, of course, sending you the studies, as I mentioned. And keep a lookout on the Pôle Mer Méditerranée and the Optitec website for future activities regarding autonomous systems on the international scale, and of course on the national scale. From the Pôle Mer side, I will give you a rendezvous at the end of June at Euromaritime in Marseille and at Euronaval in Paris, where we'll be having in-person activities relating to autonomous systems. And for now, I will thank both our speakers, Melanie and Jean-Pierre. Thank you very much for your availability and for your presentations. I think they were very insightful, and I hope they were helpful for all our participants. And thank you to our participants for joining us. And I will see you all in the next webinar or by email. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Merci. Au revoir, Fanny.
Au revoir.